Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is September 18th, and it's a Thursday at around 9 p.m. Central European Time, and this is Turn 2, Episode 36 with Frodan and Gnimsh. Today, our special guests are two BlizzCon regional finalists, Keaton Chakki Gill and Yevgeny Neirea Shumlin. I hope I said your name right. Guys, welcome to the show, and I hope you guys are excited for a very wonderful day of discussion. Gnimsh, how's it going?
It's going great. It's we were not online last week, but the last 2 weeks were just amazing with so many tournaments, so many events, some players winning, some players losing. So much happened. Like we are having a ban announced. Well, it's not a ban. It's like a change of cards. So we have a lot to talk about today.
That's right. But before we do, we want to kind of get to know our guests who will be mainly the focus on the show because they have a lot of cool features and stuff that we want to talk about because not a lot of people really get to see them that often on these kinds of platforms. So I'm going to first go to Chakki. I want to ask you, Chakki, where the hell are you right now? And, how's it going so far?
I'm in a dorm room at college, and it's going well. Everything's pretty good. Qualified for New York.
You're not disrupting your roommate's study times, are you?
I mean, hopefully not, but who knows?
Wait, so is this your freshman dorm room, and then this is the guy that you got paired with?
I'm a sophomore, but yeah. Other than that, correct.
Right, because it was the first year, you don't really get to choose who you get the room with usually. So, okay, that's all good, all good. Neirea, how's it going, dude?
Hi, it's fine. Today was my third stream, and I feel pretty good at the moment. But I feel also bad because I didn't practice for the world qualifiers.
You didn't practice for one day and you feel bad?
No, I didn't practice like 1 week probably. So, and I can't feel so good about it.
Yeah, taking a break once in a while is actually pretty good. At least it relaxes your mind a little bit because Hearthstone nonstop can be a little mentally stressful, that's for sure. So today, guys, we're going to be talking about all kinds of cool stuff. We're going to be first featuring the Road to BlizzCon and talking about North American and the EU Swiss qualifiers, including the regional finals coming up. Of course, we want to spotlight the guests, and we'll make sure to do that first thing. And we'll talk about a little bit of the metagame now that Leroy and Buzzard has been announced and confirmed that they will be nerfed on September 22nd. We'll talk about tournament results, including winning WEC with Tides, the upcoming Seat Story and Via Game House Cup, as well as some other fun stuff around the community that you guys will definitely get to hear throughout the day. So make sure to stick around because at the end of the show, we're going to do Q&A like we always do. So if you have questions, whether it's about your own specific Hearthstone meta questions, or if you just want to get to know the guests better, you can hang around and we'll be doing that in about an hour or so. All right, so our first topic of the day is just a guest spotlight and talk about their journey to BlizzCon. So, Chakki, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to the stream, explain your TCG experience, as well as kind of like your journey to BlizzCon regionals in New York.
Okay. So, hi, I'm Chakki. Quite a few of you probably know me from Fight Night. That was kind of my first exposure in the Hearthstone scene.
Oh, yeah?
Before Hearthstone, I played the Pokemon TCG for like 6 years. And so when Hearthstone came out, I just kind of got into it, played some Blizzard games before. And I started out like probably November of 2013 in the closed beta. Played a bunch of tournaments like right off the bat. I was just interested in playing competitively. I won quite a lot of tournaments. They're pretty small back then though, like 30 people-ish to 60 at max. And so in about January and February, I won a bunch of tournaments with a Shaman deck. Mana Grind picked me up. And then a month later, we got invited to Germany. And that's kind of where it all began. Moved on to Clarity and was only there for about a month because that team kind of fell apart. And then I was teamless for quite a while. Just been playing tournaments. Did a bit of streaming. Haven't done that recently. And now I was recently picked up by Team Coast and qualified, went 5-0 in the North American Regional. So headed to New York in a bit.
6 core. That's like That's a lot of achievements, actually, man. It's like, did you talk to Team Chaos before, or like because it seems like the news about them picking you up were in the middle of the qualifier, so they didn't even know if you.
Yeah. Well, I practiced for the regional with Team Coast, and like I'd been practicing with them for a bit, and that's kind of what led to me, joining them. Like I'd just been practicing with their team, and it was working well. We get along pretty well, so just joined the team officially, and the news just recently came out.
Can you introduce the team, by the way? Like, who is on
the team? Is Impact, who won the Sunshine Open, Twisted, who also qualified for the North American Regionals, and Luffy, who has won a bunch of the NESL Cups. He didn't do as well in the North American Regional, and he's also been on the King of the Hill series a few times.
Yeah, certainly a strong lineup. Like I've played versus most of them, and great guys and great team, and you can really see like how it's helped you as well to get to the regionals, and Twisted as well. So pretty good scores.
Yeah, Chakki, I wanted to ask you specifically about your 5-0 run, because there's only 4 people in the entire region, which features thousands and thousands of players, and only 128 could get to that round. So the 5-0, was it kind of difficult? Because everyone has been adopting this ban system format, and then it was just kind of wide open. Anyone could have played anything. Leroy and Buzzard were not announced by that changes, and people weren't thinking about like banning it or anything. Was it really difficult to just kind of go into it, considering the format usually isn't Swiss for these tournaments? They're often just like single elimination, double elimination, and brackets. Was it kind of a breath of fresh air for you?
Well, I mean, since I went 5-0, there's really not a big difference for me for Swiss and single elimination, but it's kind of nice knowing that if you do lose, you're not just out or, put in loser's bracket or something, though you kind of are. I mean, it's basically triple elimination rather than Swiss. And it was just like going 5-0. I mean, I always had that buffer behind me, so I wasn't like too nervous. But when I was 4-0, I was really like, I need to win this right now. I don't want to, have to win 3 more or something. And my 5th series was extremely close, and that was actually streamed. So some people probably saw that.
Yeah, I was watching the series, and it was pretty intense. And it was Shaman versus Hunter at some point. And you made a couple of cool decisions where you actually went face, and well, it was pretty cool when you went face. It was a good decision. When you traded, it was a good decision, and you were able to defeat Hunter with Shaman, which is a specific matchup where some people say like Shaman is really disadvantaged, and some people like Sixo believe like Shaman actually has an edge. So you were playing that really well, and you were able to steal that win. And then you were placed into a Shaman versus Handlock game, which was pretty advantageous for you.
Yeah. The Hunter matchup, so I actually copied Sixo's exact list that Fake also used to win the VGBN qualifiers. And so when we were testing, I was just kind of looking around at what people had been succeeding with. I saw that list, and I read the 2 articles that they both wrote about, how they were beating Hunters. And I'm like, at first, you kind of think, well, maybe they were just playing against bad players, average players on ladder, and they got a little lucky in the tournament setting. But after testing it, I mean, I was getting 60 to 70% win rates against, the best players playing Hunter. So took it in the tournament. I went 4-1 against Hunter with it, and the one loss was to just an explosive Undertaker opening, and I didn't have any removal. So I kind of consider that, the fluke, but. Going aggressive with the deck in the series against Neirea, he put me to 8 health as Hunter. So, just naturally, when you're at 8 health against a Hunter with no healing, you have 4 turns to win the game. So I kind of had to just be like, okay, let's go, let's kill him, or else you just die to their hero power. And then the handlock match, yeah, I drew 2 Urshocks and a Hex, along with some other pretty decent cards. So, I mean, people consider that matchup like 55-45 or 60-40. And, I got the good end of that with the draw.
Yeah, and also like your opponent had the Twilight Drake instead of the Giant, but you had the Urshot.
I was very happy when I saw that.
Just about to say that too. Well, Chakki, congrats, man. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a second, but I want to kind of get to know Neirea a little bit more and his journey to BlizzCon. The first thing that comes to everyone's mind is, of course, Neirea is one of the 2 seeds who goes straight to DreamHack Stockholm. But everyone kind of understands one of the 2 seeds' story, Kolento, who's on Cloud9, who's Gnimsh's teammate. And they see his stream, they see him dominating ladder and introducing a bunch of decks. But there's just another saying for the Europeans, at least, from what I hear. They said that Neirea is actually Kolento 2.0. He's like the second coming of Kolento. But not many people know about you. So can you introduce yourself a little bit about your gaming background and your road to BlizzCon?
Hello, I'm Evgeny Shumilin. Also, you know me as Neirea. I played mostly casually with my friends, some games, online games like Dota and stuff. But then I found out some stream of Hearthstone. I watched, I guess, Trump. I don't remember exactly. And I found this it pretty funny, and registered for beta key, and got it after 2 months of waiting. I was very surprised, and then started the journey has been started for me. Mm-hmm. I watched a lot of Kolento streams when he was rocking with his handlock at the January, as I remember.
Yeah, pretty early.
Yeah, and then I got my first legend with Huntered. When Unleash was buffed for 2 mana, like in 1 day. Then I was lazy to play, and when ranked season starts, I decided to play. I didn't have a game to play, and decided to play Hearthstone, and I chose mid-range druid at the first season. No one played this kind of druid at this season. All played, as I remember, this mid-range hunter and ram druids. And mid-range druid was pretty hard for these classes to beat it. And I took first place, pretty easy.
It seems, by the way, that for you the first place is not a problem. It's also like, and it's also funny because Kolento, I think, at some point didn't know about you. He was like, "Yeah, I'm first in Europe without any problems." And then I was like, because when we were in France with Kolento, I was like, "Yeah, but Neirea is like second, just after you." And he's like, "What? Why? Who is that?" It's like, and there's a lot of like.
You don't know each other?
Yeah, it's like, well, then you guys knew each other, by the way, like.
Now we talk to each other, like. But we spoke to each other probably 2 weeks ago at first time, and just so yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting like, because Neirea is like one of the players that's one of the best in Europe and one of the best in the world, and a lot of people just don't know you and don't know about you, and especially if our US viewers. It's like in Europe, a lot of people know that there is this guy that you lose to very often. Like when you face Neirea on ladder, you're like, oh damn, this is the guy, so I'm probably going to lose. And a lot of players are afraid of you. And like even on Reddit, on one Reddit thread, when you had the innovation AMA, one guy had a theory that you're immortal and that you are the gatekeeper, like staying on rank 1 and just killing those guys trying to get to legend. So basically. Yeah, you're feared and you're one of the best players, but you don't have the. It's like on the VGVN you competed and you had a really good score. I believe you finished in the final, right?
Right.
Yeah. So it's I hope that people will actually start inviting you more because you have really good ideas. I played against you as well in like in the Gentleman's Cup league, and I lost there. So
I remember that game.
You remember that game? That was a pretty good game.
His victory against you stood out in his mind.
Well, it was a cool game actually. You were playing mage and I was playing what, druid or?
Druid and then Hunter.
Yeah. So mage was really surprising there. So basically, yeah, this is our Neirea from Europe, and so you have no TCG experience, right? Like you never played TCGs before.
No, I didn't.
Okay, so mostly Dota and like other just online games with a bunch of friends.
I played competitively, probably Counter-Strike Creeds Jumping, if you know this mod.
I don't, but it's
Maybe
no.
someone know. But it's not a professional cyber sport, so. But it's kind of hard.
So with no card game experience, because like Chakki is coming from Pokemon, so he knows the mechanics of like card advantage and board advantage and stuff. Like, was it difficult for you to like understand them, or did you read some stuff online, or did you just understood them after playing the many games?
Maybe just understood. Maybe just I played so much this game. Maybe just some logical stuff I got from my professional from my university. I'm studying for programmer.
Okay.
So it's kind of helping me.
Neirea, I want to ask you, how many games do you have won? Because there was an interview with Kolento, the other Ukrainian who's really good at this game. Well, and Reynad too, I guess. Kolento was like, he said he won 10,000 or something like 15,000 games on his accounts combined. Like something insane like that. When most pros average around like 4 to 6K, you know, like, and that's like the on the more played list. So Kolento clearly is enamored by Hearthstone and he grinds like crazy. How much Hearthstone have you played? Just a sheer volume.
I just turned my Hearthstone and I see 5K games and ranked wins, I mean, and 2K in arena.
Wow, 2,000 arena, jeez. Oh, you've grinded a lot to get those packs, right? Did you is this thing completely free to play for you, by the way? Did you spend any money?
Yeah, I didn't spend any.
That's really nice. That's really nice. So it's pure profit, I guess, in terms of investment. I sadly can't say the same. I bought packs in the beta because I wanted the golden Mechatorque card, but I know a lot of other people did.
I can say funny thing. At first pack that I got from I don't remember. Oh yeah, I remember from finishing first quests. I got the golden Deathwing.
Okay.
Oh, nice.
Do you still have it, or did you like destroy it?
No, I disenchanted it immediately and made some weird hunter deck.
Aww.
With bestial wrath, snake traps.
That's disenchanted golden Deathwing for bestial wrath. Oh goodness.
Yeah.
Poor Deathwing.
Wow. Don't worry, we've all had those silly moments in the past where we thought a card must have been good. Well, congrats on, by the way, your second place finish in VGVN 3. Before we go back to Chakki, I kind of want to talk about the tournament there, because as much as people kind of saw your name on the ranking list, VGVN 3 was your coming out party, and I guess we can just kind of transition to that topic already since we're already there. Were you kind of like, what was your expectation going in? Because that tournament seemed to be like the ladder kings, right? Like Firebat hyped, you, Kolento, and then 6-0 was ranked, I think, 6 or like top 5 around there. And then, of course, then they had like a special invite to Brian Kibler, who I want to also ask you about, but we'll cover that later. What were your expectations coming to this? Did you expect that you'd be able to get to the finals the way you did in pretty dominant fashion compared to everyone else?
I think no one can expect that he will go to the finals. Because it's really hard. You just don't know what people will bring to the tournament. But if you are getting lucky with your draws, like I drew a lot with Druid, like I didn't draw ramp only in one game, so I got lucky pretty much. So it's kind of hard to beat a guy who got lucky.
It's wild growth every game, right?
Yes.
Oh, I mean,
And
it's still you still made some pretty epic plays that everyone took notice of. The most notable was your insane miracle versus the Giants beige, and
Hype
you
versus
try to
hype.
make like you made like you both made a series of plays where it was kind of crazy because it was very unintuitive, including backstabbing your own Leroy or kind of colding your own whelps. Just talk a little bit about the skill level of the tournament compared to some other the stuff that you played or even ladder.
actually, when I at season 3, I guess, when I played Freeze Mage, I saw this Leroy do nice against me. So it was pretty like it's not the first time I see this play. That's why I chose.
Ah, so
Some
who do you want to give
experience.
credit for then? Who's the first
I
person?
just don't remember. So much miracles were there at the time.
Well, everyone was doing it apparently, but I guess that was the first time we saw in the competitive circuit. Gnimsh, do you have any questions? I'm sorry I cut you off there a couple times.
No, it's fine. I mean, like, it only shows your experience because, like, the more you play, the more you put yourself into those situations where you can actually copy or where you can see some cool plays and then you can use it yourself. So, both you and like Colento and then Chakki as well, like, you play a lot and you really put the volume. And that's why you can make those plays and you understand how the decks work. So it's pretty impressive. And VGVN Frodan, it was a cool tournament, basically. It was, but Savitz took it.
Yeah, it's a really cool story because Savitz is a player that people always thought was the first in the door, right? Like he did well in the very beginning, therefore people recognize him. And the fact that he keeps getting invites was just because he's been around longer and everyone's familiar with him. But then what's really funny is if you read the Skype conversation of like what was going on the weekend of the qualifier, Monk basically approached the Liquid chat and like, hey, I think you guys should play in the open. And Savitz is like, yeah, I guess I have some time, I'll play. And then he qualified for the event, and then he won the entire damn thing. So I think the guy shows that he belongs at least where he is today. Everything he's had, he's earned, and he can do it again. And I think it's not really like a middle finger to the haters. It's more of an inspirational story to all the people who still want to kind of get their name out there, and it is possible as long as you stick at it. Now, at the same time, Savitz also have had his share of pretty bad tournaments, getting eliminated very early with some unlucky draws and just kind of unfortunate situations. But at the same time, I think it's a good story nonetheless. But to kind of center back here, the last question I want to ask about VGVN, and this can kind of go to Chakki too if you want to butt in and answer, is I kind of want to ask you what you thought of Brian Kibler's play because he is kind of the outsider here. And if there really is this such thing as like the influx of MTG players that everyone will be like, oh, when they come over, it's going to be super scary.
Well, do you mean the Brian Kibler from the Brian Kibler Foundation?
Yes.
Okay.
The BKGMKBK thing.
Not to mistake him with another Brian
Kibler. Got to turn on Twitch chat now to read about it. But, I think he went 0-3. I didn't catch all of his games. I definitely saw the Lothab play, which was just kind of like a slip up, but I think it like cost him the game pretty much.
Yeah.
So pretty major thing. But I mean, we've all made some sort of mistake at some point, but it was a pretty bad mistake to make. I didn't really get to see his other sets. I know he finished second in the Sunshine Open, and it seems like he hasn't been doing well in the band format. I'll say that much. I don't think he's won a set in the band format, and he's expressed he doesn't like that format. But essentially, it's kind of like, you have to just get used to it anyway because a lot of tournaments are doing it. And, if you're not finding success, then you need to do something else differently. But, as far as the MTG thing, I've always kind of laughed at the thought of, people coming over from MTG and dominating. It's just another card game in my eyes. It's more similar to Hearthstone than the other card games, but, these people that are good at card games are just going to be good at card games no matter which one they pick. I don't think the MTG people are going to be more dominant than, especially more dominant than the people that have just been playing Hearthstone forever because, they come over. I don't think any of them really, got top 16 instantly. Reddit likes to make a big deal of they get legend really fast, but to all the pros, that doesn't really matter. It's can you get top 16 at the end of the month, and none of them were able to do that. I'm sure there were some that I don't know about, but if you're a good player, you're a good player. I don't think your background really influences that. Especially, you look at Neirea, he didn't play other card games, and he got number 2. So,
yeah, coming from a Dota background, Neirea, what'd you think of overall Brian Kibler's play? Because he is kind of like the interesting topic nowadays in the community. His involvement in other games starting to turn towards Hearthstone now.
I started games against him. I knew only one thing about him. It's that he came to Hearthstone like a month ago, and I decided to go with handlock to catch him, and it worked out pretty well. But I think that experience from card game will give him advantage to learn Hearthstone faster, but to learn all stuff, you just need to play Hearthstone a lot. Exactly, Hearthstone.
Yeah,
I totally agree. It's like it's something I talked about with someone else at some point. It's like you have the basics, the basics, you're a good player, but still you have to put your time into the game. Like you have to play all those matchups, you have to learn all those decks. And also in Hearthstone, it's not that easy that like sometimes in Magic, some people just return and they don't really get the meta game. They just take like one deck, like one aggro deck, and they do well in the tournament because they know how the game ticks, and they maybe just learn the matchups for this one specific deck. In Hearthstone, it's in our tournament format, it's really different because you have to bring like from 3 to 5 decks. You have to know all the matchups for all those decks, because you can put yourself into those different scenarios. Especially if there's a ban format, then the meta game is just totally different, and small differences in decks are so important. Like, are people playing Harrison Jones, or are they? Do you cut Brawl from Warrior because you don't expect it to be useful? Or like those new ideas, like the hyped mage. So you have to be really following the scene and playing. And this is something that Brian was also saying. Like he was playing in VGVN, and he was playing versus our best, like the guys who got seeded in the NA qualifier and EU qualifier, and also like Savitz and Fake from the Open. So he was playing versus almost like the best players in the world for Hearthstone, who play all the time. They put their time and they put the effort to actually play everything. And he didn't feel prepared, which is fair. And I think like for the time he actually spent for the game and the effort he spent, he did well. But overall, it's like you really have to spend more time and put some dedication. I also feel like you can't be the pro player in both games at the same time, because in both Hearthstone and Magic, you have to play all the time to catch up the meta game and to test all the different decks, and just keep being good and trying to be better.
I can tell you example of unexperienced, but when I reached rank 1 at first season, I started playing the same deck at the season 2, but there was a lot of miracles, and I was getting wrecked every time, almost every time. And I needed to choose my deck. And I tried a lot, practiced a lot, and like any of decks didn't, any decks worked for me. And at the end of the season, I was like rank 3000, as I remember.
Me too.
And I just saw a freeze mage deck, basically, and I learned it in one day. It just helped when I practiced all decks before. I just learned to learn. That's how.
Yeah, it only means that you have talent, that you actually understand how the deck ticks. Like some of the players, they really have to play a lot of games to understand that they still play it badly. They need someone to point it out, to coach them. But some of the players, like it seems like it's you. They just understand the deck and the mechanics behind it after playing a couple of games. So it's pretty impressive. It's it's pretty great.
Mm-hmm. So basically, you have to play a lot of decks to understand the game wide.
Oh, I absolutely agree for sure. So on that note, let's talk a little bit about the upcoming event in DreamHack Stockholm. Is it next week already? Oh my God, I can't believe how September's flying by. Like,
Oh,
then
man.
again, the past week's just been a blur for me, and will continue to do so because I still have an event tonight. Let's talk a little bit about the 16 players that'll be at DreamHack, and then we'll go to New York and talk about Chakki's chances over there too. So from Europe, if we look at the link, we have Neirea and Nicolenta, who are the top two, and then we have 4 or 5-0 players, including Noisy Boy, the Fish. I'm gonna butcher these names. You're gonna have to help me. The Fisho.
I have
from
no
France.
idea. Those are just nicknames, so don't worry.
Toyota from Germany. Reynad, of course, everyone knows.
Ray in Aid. Oh wait, okay.
Number guy, the Fallen, Matthew, Frezar, who joined Fnatic recently, Mr. Yagut, Lowello, Max from the UK, he's a well-known deck builder, Tice and Life Coach, 2 players well-known in the community, and then Cupcake, who recently joined his new team as well. Seeing this top 16, are there any people who stand out to you as possibly the strongest competition that to be feared? Probably everyone looks at Kalento immediately, but is there anyone else who stands out to you?
I fear the most my teammates, Toyota and Number Guy. I think Number Guy is one of the talented player. He's like 17 right now, and I feel like at this age you have to be you need to have a lot of talent to play such a game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like him and RDU.
I fear, 17. And sometimes I see his plays even uncommon for me.
Really? Well, now you're hyping him up. I'm very interested because I already see such strong play from your guys in general. Like Toyota did really well in the HyperX Invitational, of course.
And at the qualifiers, he did 5-0.
Yeah. Wow. Really impressive. Really impressive.
Yeah, that's a pretty good score from Innovation, by the way. It's like today I made a joke that because we had the Gentleman's Cup playoffs today, and somebody asked, "Where's Innovation?" And I'm like, "Innovation is busy winning BlizzCon right now, so that's why they're not at the playoffs." So you guys did really great. Like took 3 people in top 16 for EU. You have really good chance to get like a couple of people to the top 4 for the actual like the world champs. So pretty good score. But other than that, there's a lot of good people here. Like a lot of people are not known. It's when people look at the list, they say like, I only know Reynad in here. And
really?
I mean, I've seen a comment like that on the Blizzard forums. It's like they look at the list and they are like, "Where's Trump?" And then I only know Reynad in here.
Where Noah Maz? Question mark? Maybe
they expect Maz to be on an NA list, and then they ask like, "Why is Reynad on the EU list?" Which is also like weird for them. But basically for us, like who are involved in the community and we know the pros, here there's a lot of good players, names that we know about them, and people that we face on the ladder as well.
Yeah, basically I faced every player at this list. Maybe only Lowello is unknown for me.
Really?
Yeah.
Can you share some insight about some of the other lesser knowns then, like Matthew or the Fallen, Mr. Yagut? Do you talk to him about that at all?
Mr. Yagut, first time I saw his Miracle, he was rank 1 probably a long time. Then I saw his stream with Hunter, took some ideas from them. Other players, I just met them at ladder, but I didn't like. I don't have special information about them.
Okay, yeah, sure. Just kind of blur in the midst of all the games.
Probably Cupcake. I met him at ladder a lot. Exactly this player, and he was playing Paladin, as I remember.
Oh, really?
And Shaman.
Oh, good for him. Good for him. I guess Copenhagen Wolves got another unique player then. All right, well then let's Well, that was a little bit of a preview of DreamHack. I want to remind you guys that it will be streamed through, I believe, Via Game, or they'll make an announcement of all the official details. But it should be fun. It's going to be a really good time because the top 16 will be played there. It's not like an open event of some kind like former DreamHacks that you are used to seeing. It's going to be a top 16 where the top 4 qualify. They're going to have groups and then I think single elimination from that point on. But it's pretty much just go through groups and win your quarterfinals, and then top 4 you're through. So it'll be a really fun time. And
I can also add to that because we'll have those 16 players there. Hopefully everyone can actually make it because Kolento is fighting for his Swedish visa right now. So
come on, if Kolento can't go, I'll be so mad.
Fingers crossed that he can actually make it to the event. But Neirea, you got your visa, right? You can go to Sweden.
Not yet, but tomorrow probably.
Okay.
Oh, no.
So
Wow.
hopefully you can get your visa as well.
I hope so too.
And I think the top 16 plus a Blizzard is inviting some of the other players as well to just hang out and do some coverage, and so maybe we'll see more people there, and like it will be more as an event, like a big event. No, it's not just top 16 people playing there and no coverage at all, but I hope this will be a really cool event, and it's in a week, so yeah, pretty soon.
Yeah, for sure. And the week after that will be the New York event, which will also be a fun time because it's got a lot of other players that I think people would be very familiar with. It's more heavy on the well-known side, at least in my opinion. So this is where we kind of transition to Chakki and kind of ask him the same questions we asked Neirea about the top 16. But let's read off the list real quick. The 4 players who advanced who advanced 5-0 with pretty much perfect scores across the board is Strifecrow, Tides of Time, That's Admirable, and Chakki. So you have 4 guys who are pretty well known. And from there, it kind of has a interesting sharp drop off. You have Dear Jason, Stunner, Kuhaku, and Death Star. And then rounding out it is Tyree, D2 from DKMar, Twisted, Chalk, and Jab. Oh, and Stas. I forgot him. And then, of course, there's Hyped and Firebat as the top 2 seeds based off points. So, Chakki, taking a look at this list immediately, I know a couple of your friends are in here too. What's your expectations going into this event? Is there any player that you kind of got your eye out for? And then who's anybody that maybe have surprised you by even being there and maybe overperforming a little bit? In a good way. You don't have to shoot any. You don't have to. No shots fired. It doesn't need.
Yeah, I don't know how I can say that in a good way. I was surprised that Admirable went 5-0. I wasn't surprised that he qualified, but like Admiral and I were practicing together a bit, and then basically, I started playing with the Coast people, and there were 4 of us in the qualifier, and so understandably, like Admiral kind of took his practice elsewhere, so I didn't know what was going on with him. But I'm still friends with him and stuff, and he came to like ridiculous conclusions. He played Paladin, Mage, and Handlock, and he went 5-0, and I was like, whoa, that was really interesting to me. Tides and Strifecrow, not surprised at all to see 5-0, and then myself filling out the list, I was ridiculously happy about. But everyone else, I mean, I think there's like 9 like known players here, and I'm using known as like people that have played and stuff that's been broadcasted, and then 7 people are kind of like unknown, and in Europe it's like the opposite. There are 7 known and 9 unknown. So North America is a little bit more familiar faces, but other than that, I mean, I'm not really expecting to face anyone because I'm pretty sure groups are just a random draw. I probably don't want to face Twisted. He's my teammate. We're probably going to, for the qualifiers, we use the exact same deck lists. So if that kind of thing happens again, I'd rather not play someone who knows exactly what I'm doing. But, if we had to play, ideally it would actually be in groups. That way we could both advance and not face each other in quarterfinals.
Do we know who Dear Jason is, by the way?
I don't. I mean, like I know people have faced him on ladder a bit. I don't think he's like known that much though. But like if you ask like pro North American players, they'll just be like, yeah, I've played him.
Okay.
Before.
He's not affiliated with Dear Neirea, right?
No.
Okay.
No, but that's the joke, so to speak. Even Nadia's in it too. She's saying, "Oh, my long lost brother."
Okay. Well, basically, those players all qualified, and both qualifiers were pretty stacked. So a small announcement here: like today, we have Neirea and Chakki, but we'll try to feature those players who qualified on their World to BlizzCon every week on the show, so that you can actually like get to know people like Kuhaku or Death Star just better, and see who they are, what stories they can tell. So definitely we'll talk to those players as well. And I'd actually love to talk to D2 as well. The DKMR, he's the DKMR captain, right?
Is he?
I'm not sure if he's their captain, but yeah, he's on there.
Okay.
All right. Well, I mean, I just kind of looked to Brad as their main their main ambassador. I didn't really even think he was a captain.
I think Brad is an ace, and D2
Okay.
is like captain, and he's from Japan, right?
Yes. Well, at least that's
He
what his flag
lives in
is.
Japan. He said, I believe he's like from America. He has like half ethnicity in Japan, and he lives in Japan. So
Right. So, but he has U.S. citizenship, so he
Yeah,
counts. Right. Okay. Well, that makes a lot of sense as opposed to having to play in Asia. And yeah, I think Amaz has the same exact situation pretty much, where he has Canadian citizenship or passport, and so he played in Europe. Pretty logical. He's from Asia, citizenship in North America, and he tried qualifying in Europe. All right. Well, that's going to be in the first weekend of October, the New York event. We want to remind people that the New York event is actually free to attend, and you get free Hearthstone packs that's going to be given out to the first 1,500 people who go. So it's just free to enter, and it's just going to be a fun time. It's in the Hammerstein Ballroom event, which I think there's going to be another cool WoW thing going on too. So if you're a fan of just Warcraft in general, the universe as well as the MMO, you can go check it out. And if you want more information, you can head over to ESL's website and check out how to get your free tickets and free Hearthstone packs. It's just a way to encourage people to come out and see some of your favorite players. And I think it's good that Chakki mentioned it's like 50-50 almost down the line of roster that people should probably be more familiar with, and then new faces that are trying to make a name for themselves. So good stuff all around. And again, if you guys are confused, you can just go to the Battle.net website because Blizzard's promoting it a ton. So let's see. Do you guys have anything you want to talk about real quick before we move on from BlizzCon qualifiers to another huge topic?
I'm good.
I want to know if I get those 3 booster packs. But
Oh, I'm sure there's a way I could sneak one to you. Although I
Other
don't
than
think.
that-
I mean, you're pretty hard to fool, though, Chakki. You're super tall, and you hunch over a little bit too. So I think they've got your silhouette not nailed down for the most part. I don't think you're fooling anybody. All right, so let's go to the next topic where we're going to cover the metagame that's been going to be shifting a lot in a few days here. We have Leroy and Buzzard has been announced that they're going to be nerfed. Now, Blizzard kind of released a weird thing where it was like they said that they weren't going to change any cards. They're like, we don't intend on changing the game a lot whatsoever. And all of a sudden, people just discovered randomly on their games that the Leroy and Buzzard were getting ghosted as mana cost buffs, or in some case stat changes. So now that the official news is out that on September 22nd, the nerfs will be coming, where Leroy costs 5 mana and Starving Buzzard will be 5 mana as well, but a 3/2 minion. People are starting to scramble en masse, declaring Hunter is dead, / Handlock will be dominant, or whatever deck that they predict will now start to be the top class. And now half the people are like, well, tournaments now I guess are irrelevant, or if they win with Hunter, they're like, yeah, enjoy your last moments on the top, you know, jerk, saying things, whatever. Gnimsh, talk to me a little bit about the first implications here as a player and commentator.
Okay, so the first, wait, Buzzard is actually getting buffed. It will be a 3/2 now, so he's like more beefy and you can
Harder to kill.
Yeah, it's exactly. Well, basically the nerf was kind of by surprise, but on the other hand, a lot of players expected it because when we were preparing for the BlizzCon qualifiers, Hunter, it was really painful to play against Hunter, and especially the new builds with Undertaker and really aggressive one. So it's really limiting your deck building with all the things Hunter has, and we talked about it many times on Turn2 before, that Hunter seems like an OP deck and has too many good cards that interact with other decks. So basically, nerfing Buzzard and Leroy is a direct hit to Hunters, because then the card draw is nerfed, and then you won't be able to play Leroy that early. And also it like hits Miracle Rogue, because now you won't be able to triple Leroy on the same turn unless you keep the coin with Shadow Step. So, well, I don't know. Well, again, I'll have to test stuff, but the first implication that there was that tournament organizers, they decided to ban those cards in tournaments, and Blizzard was like, no, you can't ban those cards. So Deck Wars and Hearthstone wanted to ban Leroy and Buzzard for the competitive play, but Blizzard was like, not really. You have to play the game as designed. And a lot of players are actually happy. Like, a lot of players hate Leroy, but I personally feel like a nerf from 4 to 5 mana is not that big. It's the card is still good and it does what it does. It's still like 6 attack charge, and Buzzard is basically unplayable. For 5 mana, 3/2 is just better to play Cult Master or whatever. Just cut it and then just change your Hunter deck completely.
So this is where I kind of turn to, Chakki, you've played a lot of Hunter, and Neirea, you've played a lot of Miracle, and I'm sure you guys have also played the other decks a lot around that utilize this card. The first question is Hunter truly going to die after this, or is it just like one of the archetypes will die and they have to kind of focus more on aggro? Chakki, you've played a lot of Hunter. I've seen you streaming a lot of Hunter in the past too. Can you go first here?
My initial reaction is yes, Hunter won't be a top class anymore. As far as if it will die, I'm sure something will happen. Like, people will find a way to play it. Whether or not it'll be like played at tournaments, probably not. It's losing its main mechanic that made it really good, which was, it's actually funny that this nerf basically is a huge buff to control decks, because the 2 decks that really gave control a bad time are the Hunter with high main and like tracking and stuff, just a very slow one with freezing traps or snake traps or whatever, and Miracle Rogue with 2 saps. These 2 decks, basically, you consistently draw your whole deck, and your whole deck's damage output is just ridiculous. You can sap their taunts or freezing trap, they're big guys, and you just reliably always kill them. You'll notice Miracle is the counter people have for Priest, for Paladin, for Warrior sometimes, and this is like the matchup that people want to use right now, as well as the slow Hunter. But people were transitioning towards the fast Hunter to beat other Hunters, was the new meta, I guess. But with this change, Control just really, like, Miracle will still live. I don't know about Hunter, but Control just has less to worry about now. And aggro decks have already been, kind of taken out after Naxxramas. As sad as it is, Sledge Belcher, Haunted Creeper, Zombie Chow might have been enough to put them at tier 2. So I expect to see a lot more Control in the coming future.
Sure. Neirea, do you agree with that?
At some points, yes. At some points, I have my own opinion. I think Hunter will have some last breezes, like with aggro Hunter decks, maybe some secret decks, I don't know. But then it will die, because it wasn't a problem, and Blizzard just nerfed the best card in this deck. No, not the best one, but it denies draw potential, whole draw potential. I think the whole problem with Hunters were Hunter's Mark, that it costs 0 mana, and with new Naxxramas cards, Web Spinner, Haunted Creeper, it was easy to deal with that 1 damage with Hunter's Mark to kill big stuff. That was a problem, not Buzzard. But Miracle will die for sure. I mean, really? Leroy version of Miracle.
Oh, yeah, okay.
But Malygos can bring some action.
Oh yeah, especially if you draw cards. I have a question to all of you guys, because Chakki is saying that this is the age, the new age of Control with Miracle and Hunter weekend. So you guys being also like watching tournaments and being Hearthstone fans, do you enjoy those control versus control matchups? Because we've seen it a lot on Deck Wars and other tournaments. And when people played Zoo, people play Hunter, everybody was like, "Oh my God, no skill, just too fast, lost 3-0, I can't believe." And now it's like going to game 7 of the control versus control, and the Twitch chat is full of resident sleeper. So what do you guys think? Is it like good for the game that we have those nerfs and the metagame will slow down and we'll have like Sludge Belcher attacking into Sludge Belcher pass turns, or do you prefer more aggro style?
Well, I think everybody knows what my response is. I think people are just going to complain no matter what, as far as like what the meta is, because there's always going to be an optimal way to play, and tournament players are going to play that way. I think ideally in the balanced world, aggro should be able to beat, both control and mid range if they're not, set up to withstand it. And so there should be this kind of equilibrium of, if you start cutting cards, like Warriors are cutting Cruel Taskmasters right now. They already cut Whirlwind. They're cutting Cruel Taskmasters. I've seen some people cutting an Armor Smith. It's getting to a point where it's like, these are the things that should be, if you run into an aggro deck, you should be punished for that. But basically aggro, just because of cards like Sludge Belcher, you might just not even be able to punish them for cutting these anti-aggro cards. Control, basically, but then on the flip side, if you don't cut those cards, your control versus control mirror is significantly weaker, which is what people are looking at now. But ideally, all 3 deck types and combo, if you want to include that, but that's also kind of control. They should be viable, and they should be kind of in a rock, paper, scissors format, sort of. But it should be, you should choose what you want your deck to be good against. It shouldn't be, this is the meta of control, and, there's no way to beat it.
Okay.
Which I'm not saying it'll be that. I have no clue, but it's looking that way.
Neirea, what do you think?
I think it would be the meta of mid-range decks like Double Roar Druid, because actually Double Roar Druid was dead because of Hunters, and that's all. And these decks can easily beat every control deck if they draw ramp. So basically it's shamans, mid-range druids, probably some sort of priests. Warriors will be dead like at season 3, I guess, where Miracle and druids will were doing stuff. So basically I don't think it would be greedy control meta. It's just not funny to watch. So yeah, it will be some sort of mid-range control and basically some zoo or fully faced decks as a mage.
Okay, so you're saying that the metagame
It's
will
my prediction.
It will be actually shifting. So we will still see everything, like mid-range control and aggro decks.
Yes. Exactly.
Okay. So by the way, what do you guys think is the fine line between mid-range and a control in Hearthstone? Like when you can say the deck is actually a control deck, and when you can say the deck is actually still like a mid-range deck?
Well, I think the difference is, like, one of the main differences you'll see is that the mid-range deck doesn't have, I like to call them bombs, like Tyrion, Ysera, just, it takes up your entire turn. It's just a really huge creature. It's very weak to certain cards like Sap, Freezing Trap, Hex, Polymorph, but if your opponent doesn't have those, or if you force them out, it will outright win you the game. Whereas like the Druid deck curves out to Ancient Lore usually, and like Ancient Lore is just a 5/5. It's not a bomb. It's just, draw some cards, and you look to end the game with your burst combo. The control decks don't really need a burst combo. They just kind of win through like Kel'Thuzad or Ysera, Tyrion, all those kind of giant legendary cards.
Okay, Neirea, do you agree or?
I think mid-range. What difference between mid-range and control is that mid-range has to do each from turn 2 to turn 5 some powerful moves to gain a board control, and then push down to the turn 9, 10 to kill his the opponent. If opponent will stay alive and regain board control, it will lose. That's all.
Okay. Frodan.
Yeah, I think Chakki hit a really good point. As much as there's good discussion going on here, I think in the end people complain about anything, honestly. There's a really funny comic that I was looking for the past couple minutes, but I can't find it, where there was just like a comic panel of like a guy complaining about every single archetype. It's like, you play aggro, it takes no skill, no decisions, you're blah, blah, blah. And then the next game is like, I can't believe you're playing control. All you do is wait and eliminate threats. What kind of decision making does that take? And it's like, you just play combo mid-range. It's like, no interactivity. It's like just complaints about every single thing no matter what. And the joke is not everyone will be happy at one point of the game. And I think people will just kind of have to adapt. And the people who kind of let that mentality take over them were the people who are at a disadvantage already, in my opinion, versus people who kind of just adapt and shift along with the metagame. So good discussion overall. The patch will go through September 22nd. I kind of lean towards some of the things that you were saying, Neirea, too. I don't think Miracle will die. And Chakki was saying it too. People are already starting to create different versions of it and testing as if Leroy doesn't exist anymore. And it still feels just as strong. You're more board control oriented, maybe not as much burst from the hand, but there's still a lot of strength in that. And of course, everyone knows Guide Stand Auctioneer draws are still AFK, be right back in 5. So
Yeah.
But imagine if Mage will come to the ladder. Secret Mage with a lot of secrets. Mage is basically counter to Miracle. Like, you play as Belcher with duplicate and Miracle just can't go through the it. And that's all. So I think aggro decks and plus Mage can just shut down the Miracle. Even new one.
it's so funny how people thought Duplicate was not going to be a good card. Or at least, I mean, we didn't even think it'd be that great. When we first saw it on the show, we're like, oh, this sounds cool. What was the thing, Nate? We were like, oh, you can duplicate your leper gnome. Congrats.
Yeah.
That's what we thought.
Exactly. Doomsayers. It's like,
well,
we were saying that the card is too conditional, that you have to have a good minion that you want to copy, and that's why it's not that good. And maybe it will be used in some specific decks, but apparently in the slower metagame, it's kind of good if you get extra cards. It's also not only the thing that you're just copying something good, it's like you're getting extra cards. So one duplicate is +2 cards from your deck, so it helps you win Fatigue Wars. So it's like an added benefit that we actually missed at that point.
Oh yeah, for sure. Plus, if there's like a lot of times, if there is a card in your deck that's extremely powerful in a specific matchup, like Sludge Belcher or another one that's an MVP, and you always want to have the second one. Duplicate helps you get you more mileage out of that, so it's really impressive. Now, I guess that leaves the last. This is kind of a tangent, but that leaves like this last card of Naxxramas that everyone's still waiting to see used. Or actually, there's two more, but the main one that people focus on is Avenge from Paladin, and how it's not really like a card that they can find very practical without like surprising their opponent. Is there any development on that side? Because I feel like, and I guess Poison Seeds too. Has there been any development whatsoever on these two cards in terms of metagame usage?
I used it yesterday.
Poison Seeds?
No, Avenge.
Oh.
Because to play versus Koyuki, I had to complete Naxxramas. So I was basically doing the Paladin class challenge on my NA account. So I did use Avenge, and it was a cool experience.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I think I did see it. So do you like it, or is it more of a, oh, this is cool, I want to try it, and it worked pretty decently in practice, so who knows? Let's go.
It worked well against the 4 Horsemen, but other than that...
All right. Well, I guess against AI, you can be good, so you're set for ladder.
The problem with this card, and probably like Well and Soul, that cards are too situational. And you need exactly boards to do it.
Right.
So it's a problem of that. And an opponent can play around it, so...
So it's just too much of a drawback, right? Because a lot of times especially with the death rattles, like you don't want to Wailing Soul your own Sludge Belcher and like, anything else that has a really good effect.
Yeah, usually you have a lot of minions with some effects, so Wailing Soul it can be used only with Watchers, like other Death Lords, right?
Yeah.
So it just 2 minions from 400 cards. Yeah.
And I think people had the same sentiments about Stone Skin Gargoyle, the 1/4 that at the beginning of the turn heals itself. Just a little too weak. Same category in stats as like Dalaran and Mage, just not very practical to use, especially for its cost. So there are some cards in Naxxramas that don't see use, but maybe there'll be a place for it as the meta keeps shifting. Who knows? People kind of make predictions all the time, and they end up panning out or sometimes not. In the meantime, I guess we're going to continue to shift on our discussions. That seems like a pretty good place to stop so we can continue to go on. Unless you guys wanted to talk more about any kind of implications to the metagame that you guys observed before we move on. Any last words?
Rip Hunters.
Rest in peace.
Yeah,
In the last days of Ladder, I see a small amount of Hunters. So I see only Priests.
One last ride.
Oh man, priests come. I already see the wave of people complaining about priests. I foresee it. I kind of get a sense of it already in some chats. People are complaining about priests, but it's gonna get kind of crazy.
Nerf Circle. Kappa.
Oh man. And like, if they just protect their cleric and you just can't do anything about it, because
Yeah, let's make cleric a 5-mana 3/2. See how they like it.
That's the last draw engine, I think. That's super cheap like that. So definitely.
Its
something
day
to
will
consider.
come, especially now with the priest being really powerful as a deck.
Can't
Oh,
wait
yeah,
for those
yeah.
priest nerfs.
And yet, look at Hearth actually released stats saying Priest kind of didn't perform well in the BlizzCon qualifier. At least from what Monk observed in Europe. The Priest deck didn't have a really good win percentage. Was this user error or just metagame state? In any of your opinions? Neirea, did you get to look at that?
The problem with win rate of Priest that I think that most of the people brought this Priest with a lot of minions, Tempo Priest I call it.
Yeah.
And it's not so strong against decks like Hunter if you don't get exactly cards you need. Against Miracle too, because you don't have removals for Auctioneer. So if Miracle just set up a board for Auctioneer, you just lose. But Control Priest can always come back from this situation. And probably Control Priest has more potential to grow up, in my opinion.
Yeah. Also, I feel like people didn't have the good lists. It's like as you said, the aggro list, the priest, the tempo priest. It's more kind of like a deck better lucky than good, where if you curve out, you can win versus everything, and if you don't, you just fall down in your face and you lose. And the control version was more like a mid-range thing, which was super reactive. It's like, if you get Pyromancer and you get the spells, you can just wreck your opponent and win by turn 4, just clearing the board. And if you don't, you just lose. So I guess that's why the win percentage of Priest was pretty weird with and pretty low with the deck builds. But in the latest tournament, like Deck Wars, we observed Priests doing pretty well as a tournament deck, and I guess the build was a bit better. And people maybe played it better as well.
It's still a newer concept because I know players wanted to play Priest for a while, but didn't really have a good reason to, other than hipster advantage, I guess. So I think people are now trying to get used to its play style a little bit more. So you see people sometimes overextending or not really playing their combos or like using things prematurely because they're just not familiar as much. Versus someone like Amaz, where I like watch him play Priest for a while. It's like, okay, well, he holds these cards for like an insanely long time, but it's because he has a specific thing in mind. So we'll see how these Priest styles end up coming out in the next couple of tournaments.
To make Priest a really strong deck, you need to nerf combo from Druid. So there will be no combos at the game, and Priest will wreck everything.
Sounds good to me.
Master plan.
think that's one of the things keeping Druid pretty competitive right now. Well, I guess Ram Druid still is also really strong, but in general, having a copy of the combo still is really good overall. All right, so that's a good place to stop, I think, so we can kind of move on to other tournaments and talk a little bit about that before we transition to the last part of Q&A. So we want to congratulate a few people for great tournament performances. Of course, Tides of Time winning WEC and holding out strong for the West and winning $32,000. Fun little story is that Tides was given a silver briefcase right afterwards in cash of the $32,000. Except in China, kind of the currency exchange rate is like a lot higher. So he was carrying around 200,000 worth in cash and had to bring it across the border and do all kinds of weird security checks. So that was a really fun experience for him, I guess, carrying around when like it just looks super suspicious when you're carrying on a large silver briefcase and you're like the only white guy in China. So
yeah, quite.
Either way, we're happy that he was able to perform well. And then that kind of brings us to another big tournament in China featuring a couple of other players who are here on the show, which is the World Cyber Arena. That's going to be in 2 weeks around the same time as the Hammerstein Ballroom event in New York, which is kind of unfortunate. The timing of it is just kind of crammed. But it is going to be a tournament for $200,000, which is insane. That's BlizzCon level.
God.
And the groups have been released, which are kind of stacked. Gnimsh, I'm sorry, but I don't peg you as a favorite to advance over your group, despite the fact that you're going up against the Asian scene, because your group G is absolutely insane.
It's my group. It's group G like Gnimsh. So, you know. Wait. From what I know, I got paired up with some just famous streamers, and that's it, right?
Sure, fame greater than strength, so to speak. Except not. Like Tides and StrifeCrow and RDU, these are, at least by their measurements, tier 1 players, 3 out of the 4 of them. And of course, Ghost2 Gamer ranks the rest of the group in the top 10. It's an insanely stacked group. And the rest of the groups seem weird because like almost all the Chinese players are in another group with Dark Wanix. And then Chakki's group actually looked pretty decent as well for him. But I mean, I don't know exactly how things are panned. I don't know the strength of Asia's metagame at all. I don't know if you guys have any insight from watching the Asian metagame, but when I look at like OGN's tournament, I still feel like the West is ahead.
I actually want to comment on my group, by the way, because, you know, I'm a very positive person, so I'm looking at the positive sides, right? So basically, if I'm paired versus Tides of Time, RDU, StrifeCrow, and Amaz, well, I dislike the fact that I'm paired against StrifeCrow, which is who is my teammate. But basically, those are players that I know that I played against in the past, so I can study them, I can prepare. Where, as you mentioned, the Asian scene is mostly unknown. So if Chakki is playing versus Ice Fox and Libo and Kyo W Fox, then it might be hard for him to study against those players. He will have just to bring his best decks, and that's it. So, well, the group is definitely a group of death. But if you advance from this group, you just won against one of the best players in this tournament. So it will be easier along the way, kind of. No shots fired, because everybody in this tournament is very good.
All right, well. I think Gnimsh is being very polite, and I think you're right to a certain extent. The information actually is very big, and the East does study a lot of the West's decks. So I heard from a few of the players local to at least the Hong Kong people. I talked to the Hong Kong guys, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we study your decks all the time." In fact, that's partially why the metagame in the East has evolved as fast as it did. Because before, like 4 or 5 months ago, when you first saw like Europe versus China or China versus North America, it felt like the decks were really poorly constructed from the Asian side, but they've caught up a lot more if you've watched recent OGN. Now it's about more like execution and understanding of how to play certain matchups, but that's the next stage for them as far as I'm concerned. Now, Neirea, did you get to watch any matches from Asia's players or tournaments at all?
Actually not. No.
Have you seen them ever? Like in any play, or whether some come to Europe and ladder?
I saw only one game at Masan versus China Korean Masters, I guess. I didn't remember the nickname of Chinese guy.
It was Tiddler, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
right.
Yeah, he played very strong with Miracle.
Yeah, he's the #1 ranked player, I think, in like China or Asia server, whichever one's there.
Mm. His decision making were pretty good. Yeah, I would do the same, please, as he did at these games.
By the way, I think Chakki has an announcement to make.
Oh, yeah. Well, I won't be at the Chinese event, but
Wow.
due to school things, and also New York is like literally the same day, so BlizzCon is more important to me personally. I just want the title of world champion, but speculation on like if I were going, I'd be very happy with the group I got. I can't research the people in my group really, like you said, but going into this event, the whole meta has changed, so it's not like there'd be anything to research anyway. Everybody's just gonna have new stuff based on what they think is best. And if you ask me whether I'd rather have, RDU, Tides of Time, and Strifecrow in my group, or these 3 Chinese guys that I know nothing about, I'd be like, give me the Chinese guys. I think the top half of the groups, especially Group A and Group B, let me look again, but those 2 groups jumped out at me as having the best chance of making the finals, because you don't have to run into the bottom half until the very end, the finals. Because if people don't know, it's Group A versus Group B, Group C, D in the bracket stage. So we get to avoid Group G entirely until the finals, in which case,
Wow.
only one of them can be alive. So
That's crazy stacked then.
I think
Wow.
the tournament could have used some seeding. Be really nice. A lot of the groups are significantly weaker than the others. I'm interested. I'll be watching the tournament to find out what everybody's playing. That way, for New York, I'll have an advantage. But yeah.
So, what odds are you giving me? Or in a Group G, we have top 4 players in the world according to the Gosu Gamers ranking, plus me, where I'm I think 33rd right now, something like that. It's a best of 2 format, by the way.
Best of 2. So
Yeah,
you
this
play
tournament
8
is
games.
weird.
You'd have to go 6-2. Jeez. So you can drop 2 games against them.
If you would practice,
I don't know,
with me,
Gnimsh.
if you would practice with me, you'll get this top 2 for sure.
Sick.
Ooh, the
have you
Neirea
on Skype.
guarantee.
Is that an open invitation? Well, I think WCA will still be. I think as much as it might feel a little bit loose as a tournament, I think it'll still be very relevant, considering that one person, it's life-changing money. One person's life is going to be changed after this, for sure. You're assuming the money is going to be paid out in a timely and legitimate fashion, which I don't doubt until proven wrong. But there are history of Chinese tournaments and other games and other events which didn't pan out exactly the way people thought it would be. But it seems like they're pretty legit and they've done everything so far. So if there is a stream of some kind, which last I heard, Criparian will be doing it. I think Crip will be doing the stream of some kind. You guys should definitely tune in and check it out. I don't know any other information.
Crip stream? Are we going to get
Is
the
it on Crip
Criparian
stream?
experience?
Uh-oh. So watch Crip stream, but then you can, move the chat away if that helps you as well. Or join in it, who knows. All right, so there's also a couple other tournaments too. Yesterday, of course, concluded Deck Wars, where RD won yet another tournament, and he did it at 5 a.m. in the morning, and he told me he had school the next morning. So the kid's dedicating his life basically to Hearthstone and still trying to juggle school while doing it. And I kind of thought that as he started school that he'd probably be slowing down and practicing less. But it seems like, if anything, he's just playing more often because of the tournament schedule. There's tournaments every other day for players now.
All
And
the time.
RDU's still doing it. Gnimsh, isn't this crazy? This is unprecedented.
It's really impressive. It's well, the thing about tournament players is that a lot of players are known, a lot of players play in those tournaments, but it's hard to win. It's you're mostly getting short somewhere around top 4. You're getting to top 8, and like in both Magic and Warcraft, the card game, a lot of players were getting to top 8, but they were never succeeding. Like sometimes you win an event, and it's like, yeah, this is the breakthrough tournament, you win it. But people like RDU, like Tides of Time, they're consistently winning events. It's like they are really getting there to the first spot almost all the time when we are watching them, and it's really amazing and impressive. It's and also like Tides of Time has the background, the Dota background, so he was already a competitive player. But RDU has almost like no background. It's like his first game, so
yeah.
The opportunities in front of him and the potential that this guy represents is just insane. So I really hope that he will just continue doing what he's doing, and I wish him really well with his tournaments, because it's just cool watching him. Like yesterday in the finals versus Koyuki, where Koyuki is the original Paladin player, the Paladin kind of like a master and the father of all Paladin players. He got wrecked by RDU playing Paladin, and just like that.
Yeah, right? That's so weird. And he did it with his own style too, like putting Kel'Thuzad and doing his own thing. So good for him. Koyuki admitted afterwards he didn't play his best. He was a little bit on tilt based off how some of the games panned out early. And then, of course, to cap it all off, he lost the Paladin mirror, which he was really upset about. So,
but on the other hand, it's a pretty good run for Koyuki as well. It was he finished the final, and a lot of people didn't know about Koyuki. Like even on Reddit, some people were like, okay, so Amask has this easy matchup because he's playing against this Koyuki guy, and who is that? Like, who is Koyuki? And then Koyuki won versus Amask, then he won versus me versus Sho, and he went to the final. And even though in the final it was like 4-1 for RDU, still a pretty good run for Koyuki.
Oh yeah. So do you guys have any thoughts on Deck Wars? Did you guys get to tune in at all? Chakki or Neirea?
I watched a bit of it. I mean, I tuned in for a bit of the finals, saw the Paladin deck destroying. Wasn't too unexpected. RDU winning, not too unexpected for me. I thought the bottom half bracket was pretty stacked, especially before Tides of Time didn't show up. But yeah, I mean, went about as expected. Actually, like they ended up giving out 2 spots. They had like this losers bracket tournament thing, and I was invited to that because I lost to Alchemist a while back. And so at the beginning, it was thought to be like Life Coach couldn't make it, and then we found out he could make it. And so a lot of us were just kind of like, this is like for an alternative if they needed it. And so none of us really took it seriously. And then it turns out they needed 2 alternates. So it turns out I might have wanted to take that a bit more seriously, but
yeah, because the previous season they had that, right? Like a backup tournament, essentially. If whoever wins this tournament is the #1 backup in case someone dropped out. And end up last season in Deck Wars, nobody dropped out, so it was just a pure exhibition waste of time. And now this time, Backspace and Tides couldn't make it, and replaced by Lothar and Firebat, which, my God, that Stone Touch board was hilarious. I actually hopped on a call with Firebat, and we laughed. I made fun of him for like 4 hours straight while I was playing StarCraft 2 with him. So it was a really fun time for me for sure. Neirea, do you have any last comments about Deck Wars? Did you like anybody's play specifically? Did you have any favorite moments?
Yeah, I watched game RDU versus Kungen. Handlock game. I laughed so hard.
That I don't know what was going on.
I didn't see such a fail fest for such a long time.
That game was just epic.
It was so confusing for me because the first half of the game was spent wondering what line Kungen was taking, and then at one point it just got like all hell broke loose, and I didn't even know what was going on anymore. I was like, I just want this to get over with in a sense, because it was like this game should have been over like 7 turns or more ago. And then like I was saying like ridiculous stuff, things were going on the screen, and I was like, I don't even know what's happening. But in the end, like you could tell that like Kungen was having a fun time, but RDU was like he was stressed out of his mind. He was like, look, his eyes were so big. His eyebrows were furled like crazy, and the kid, I felt so bad for him.
Frodan was really upset about that misplay.
Yeah, certainly. Frodan, we actually have seen a worse turn of events with Handlock versus Handlock. Do you remember the turn 2 Iron Beak Owl play into a Soulfire at the Taiwan finals.
Oh yeah.
What?
Wait. Oh my god.
So
Wait.
handlock versus handlock.
Yeah, that was
And
so
one
funny.
player is playing Iron Big O just on the vanilla board on turn 2.
Just like empty
Sounds
Iron
like
Beak.
they both. Did they both think they were Zoo?
I don't know. But what happened was there's an empty board, so a player played turn 2 Iron Beak Owl, right? And then the other guy soul fired it in response. That was basically what happened, and it was handlock versus handlock.
That game was crazy.
Yeah. Next level mind games, making him think it was a zoo deck of some kind. Well, Deck Wars was a fun time, and thanks so much to the Machinima guys. Also, thanks to Chanman for organizing the entire thing. And of course, people don't know too much about what Chanman did behind the scenes to make this event possible, but he did a lot, and he stayed up many hours. Me, him, and Milkcast, another shout out to him. We basically met together, did the overlays, and did a bunch of stuff. So as much as the broadcast lasted a friggin' long time, there was even more prep behind the scenes that added for an easy amount of like 8 to 10 hours. So those two guys did most of that. I just kind of hopped on and talked my head off a lot of what I normally do. They did a lot of the blood, sweat, and tears. So make sure to go thank them for a great event. And with that, we go to a couple of other tournaments we want to cover before the Q&A begins. We've been running a little long, so our apologies. Congrats to Masan for winning Lord of the Arena 2, which was a really fun time. And Savitsa, of course, for winning VGVN 3. We want to remind you guys about a couple of other stuff that's coming up too. The Via Game Cup will be in the week after the New York event. It'll be featuring players like Gnimsh and Maz and RDU. And it's supposed to be very Seat Story Cup like until Seat Story Cup 2 was announced, Gnimsh, which is going to be a fun time.
Well, Seat Story Cup is happening 1 week after the Via Game Invitational, right. And we're getting a lot of players there. It's like a similar prize pool, a similar house cup feel, and I really enjoy those tournaments. They're just great. You just play in the house. You have this tavern-like atmosphere. There's like food everywhere. There are players. People are having fun. And it's a great experience for Hearthstone. Instead of just, it's a bit laid back, and everybody is happy. And you are having this competitive feel still because people are facing each other in those matches for great money. But on the other hand, like everybody is making fun of each other and just telling jokes, and the stories are being born. So I'm super hyped about those tournaments, and it's like week after week because next week is Stockholm, then in 2 weeks there's China, 3 weeks Via Game. 4 weeks, there is Seat Story Cup 2. And then 5 weeks, there is Gamers Origin in Paris, which is a Swiss for 500 people. It's an open tournament.
Oh, that's cool.
There is a cap because 500 people, it's still a lot. Yeah, but it's in a school where they have a lot of computers. So the first time they approached me, I was like, okay, you want to have a Swiss for 500 people? And how are we going to do it? Like, how many computers do you have? Because it will take a lot of time. And they're like, yeah, no problem. We have the computers. We have the school. We have this event. And the prize pool, I believe, is 6,000 euros. Everybody can come. Some of the players will be invited kind of to join, but still, it's an open tournament, so everybody can come. And the most important thing is the first ever Eggy-approved tournament in Hearthstone.
Oh, man. Then that must be a tournament to watch for sure. And Eggy must be getting the most upvotes in his life. So,
Amaz
good
will be
stuff.
casting it, by the way. And I will be hosting. Cool. So we will kind of like communicate. I will be on site. Amaz will be in Hong Kong. And I will be doing interviews. And he will be casting.
Wow.
So
that's the most positive energy duo casting possible. Gnimsh and Amaz. I don't think you guys combined can make half an insult.
I will try.
All right, a few other things we want to wrap up before we go to Q&A, which is, by the way, you guys can go ahead and asking questions in the chat, and Gnimsh, Neirea, and Chakki will be looking at it in case you guys want to pick up any questions right off the bat after I'm done. So go ahead and list any questions, whether about metagame or tournaments or your own personal questions about your struggles on ladder, who knows. Go ahead. In the meantime, we want to congratulate Cupcake for joining Copenhagen Wolves. It's another solid roster with Firebat and Backspace, as well as Duckwing Face. Tomorrow will be a show match between Kalento and RDU, hosted by iHearthU, so make sure to check that out, as well as getting your opportunity to book any coaching. iHearthU is still offering that. If the new metagame confuses you, you can get these coaches to help guide you. Just click on the coaching button on the site. We also want to give a shout out for Ghosty Gamers, even though they sometimes post rankings and it doesn't make sense. They try their best, and it seems to be getting more refined. And they've been doing a lot of cool content, like bringing interviews at WEC and having an on-field reporter. That kind of stuff is really cool for Hearthstone to get us that exposure and coverage. And then also a last shout out to Complexity, who's entering Hearthstone and picking up Dog, who is starting to get popular as a streamer and also had some pretty decent results. And then the last thing is Prismatic Cup 2 will be this Sunday, and it'll have an interesting format of a 2-play system and also discussing the possibilities of doing other cool stuff. So check out Prismatic Cup 2, and I believe I'll be casting that with Raynad, which should be fun and a lot of shots fired. So let's make sure to make it a good time. All right, let's go ahead and start taking questions for the last half an hour or so, if we can afford to fit that. So Gnimsh, why don't you lead us off with any questions that you see?
The first question I got is to Neirea from Chicharitu7. What do you think about invitationals, and do you expect to get more invites now?
Of course, I expect to get more invites, but it's also important to have open brackets for players who wants to participate, who wants to beat all pro players and get the money from the tournaments.
Yeah, I hope people take more note of players who bring results. And part of the reason why streamers are continuing to become more popular and a little bit of a separation is because they keep getting invites, which is part of the process, and people recognize it. But there are people who are generating results and still get decent viewership. The fact that on a Monday night that Neirea versus Hyped or Savits and all these other players are still getting like 30,000 viewers is still very impressive. Sure, it's not the 60 to 70 that Lord of the Arena has, or even like Deck Wars being at prime hours with Trump being featured. Like those matches, of course, are very exciting, but to still get that kind of numbers with players who are, to the casual fan, kind of unknown is still very impressive. So over time, there's going to be more establishments. Neirea is going to definitely get more invites, and I guarantee you that. So don't worry, people. All right, Chakki, do you have a question that you want to tackle?
I haven't been looking at the Twitch chat.
All right, cool. We'll pass you real quick.
Yeah,
I have a question.
Get Gnimsh to throw me some questions.
Shazra19, Chakki, can we see you stream more in the future?
I will be trying to stream more in the future, but it'll probably be after New York or after BlizzCon, because right now, full focus mode on winning those.
Okay, and another question to Chakki and Neirea. From Zeki85. How do you feel about Handlock? I was about to craft the core cards last July, and then Hunter happened. Should I do it now? Should I craft Handlock cards?
I think from sort of a casual perspective, if you're just playing for fun. I mean, if you like the concept of the deck, yeah, sure, it's a good deck. It will be good after the Hunter nerfs. However, it's one of those decks that this is the way That's Admirable puts it, is that the more Handlock is in the meta, the worse it gets because of Big Game Hunter, and it's just a card that anyone can put in their deck to kind of counter you and stuff like that. So it's not like Hunter's its only issue, but it's definitely going to get stronger.
Okay, and are you guys familiar with the new Forsen's Rogue? Neirea, have you seen it?
I played against him today.
Okay, so the question is, how do you feel about Forsen Hipster Miracle in the upcoming metagame? 2 Deadly Poison, 1 Soft Deckhand, and 1 Faceless. No Leroy, no Shadow Step.
It's kind of hard to do this combo if classes like Ram Druid will do their stuff. So basically, it wouldn't be so strong. It wasn't so strong at previous seasons. He played this similar deck to that, and at this time there were no Belchers and Lotabs and such stuff. So it would be a decent deck, but not one of the strongest one.
Okay, and another question is for Neirea as well from Rex Grip. Who is your favorite Hearthstone player and why? Why is it me?
I don't know. I feel like I watched a lot of streamers at Twitch, and my favorite one is, of course, Calento, because I watched him since December, I guess, and I learned a lot from him, like handlock plays, miracle plays, and basically that's it.
Okay, and then there is a question for Frodan from Simplexity HS. Frodan, are you getting burned out from casting so much lately?
The most burnout aspect is solely the hours that I am casting in terms of what time I'm casting. Everything in this event cycle has been starting at like midnight or 2 a.m. and go until like 8 a.m. And that basically forces me to live nocturnally, which really sucks because in Germany, they really respect like off time. So a lot of people like open pretty late in the morning, like maybe 10, 11, and they close early, like 7 or 8 p.m., which is exactly when I'm sleeping. So I can't get like a lot of life stuff done sometimes, and I have to like wake up early, so to speak, at like 5 or 6 p.m. to go grocery shopping for anything else. And the hardest thing, of course, is if like, yesterday during Deck Wars, I don't have any time to eat. So basically I didn't eat yesterday and I didn't sleep. So it fucks up my body a little bit. Oh, excuse my language. But it does mess me up a little bit. Other than that, the actual casting itself, no way. It's really fun. Like Hearthstone is really different from all kinds of games that I've casted before. And I've done all kinds, whether it's action, like RTS action, FPS, or other kinds of strategy games. And I don't know, Hearthstone still excites me a lot. I don't really feel like it's a chore or job whatsoever. And even though, I'm not perfect, and I know that I'm not like the strongest player in the world, I feel like I'm getting better at it too, which is nice. Because when I first started casting Hearthstone, I was like, oh, I hate myself. I told Gnimsh, I'm like, God, Gnimsh, I'm so bad. How do I get better? And we talked like for hours on how to improve. So thanks for everyone who said kind words. I recognize that I don't have the best analysis all the time, but I play Hearthstone a lot too. So I hope you guys can recognize that I'm trying. So in a few months, I'll be even better than I am now. I'll guarantee you that.
Okay, a question to Chakki this time. From Deco Yono. If you had to face Ardiu's Paladin deck from yesterday, what's the best option besides maybe Handlock?
Well, Hunter's the best option, but that was banned. Probably Miracle Rogue. Both of which are getting nerfed. Therefore, Paladin's going to be a lot better.
Okay. And there's a question to me. Can I say my last name out loud?
I should be asking you that question. So
I'm
it doesn't
always
sound
confused.
weird.
So basically, there are two pronunciations. It's like I can say it kind of like in English way, or I can say it in Polish way. So I will say it in both. It's like when I'm talking to people in English, it's Marcin Filipowicz, but then in Polish, it's flat. So in Polish, it's Marcin Filipowicz. So I don't know if it's like cool or not. But we have more questions. Frodan, can you please do an impersonations of Gnimsh, Neirea, or Chakki?
I
ask you to do
haven't
all three if
heard
possible.
Neirea a lot, so I can't. And then I've only met Chakki a few times too. Like it's a little unfamiliar. It's like the reason why I could do a Trump impression is because I've met Trump several times and hung out with him for an extended period of time. And I've also seen him so much, whether casting or his videos. So I'll work on a Gnimsh impression and I'll bust it out sometime. I think I can do it.
Yeah, you'll start with "Oh man." For sure.
See, no one does a Gnimsh impression better than Gnimsh.
Nice. By the way, the Trump impression, if you guys don't know it, like Frodan did a really cool Trump impression on Deck Wars. I think like Chanman actually like believed it. He thought that Trump actually got his mic up, and then he realized it's not Trump, it's Frodan. So it was pretty hilarious.
From first words, I really thought that that was Trump.
It was pretty great.
I didn't. It wasn't something that I practiced in the mirror. Someone's like asking, like, "Wow, you've been waiting for that one for a long time." I'm like, "Well, no, actually, I think I've just watched like hundreds of hours of Trump worth of content by now.
So for the community, can you do an E-Cup impression? I know you have it.
Not right now. I'll bust it out like Steve Story Cup. Don't worry. In front of him too. It's best when you do it in front of somebody.
Sure,
Then they're
that's
like,
fine.
"No, that's not me," and everyone's like, "Oh, come on, dude, it's totally you." All right. So some people are asking about the state of Control Warrior and Undertaker Priest as popular decks currently. Do you think that'll be the same after the current patch? Neirea.
As I said, basically Control Warrior is strong when aggro meta is strong. That's all. When Druid will appear with these combos, Druid will, Warrior probably won't be so good. And Control Paladins, Priests, such stuff. And Handlocks.
Yeah,
So,
handlock
yeah.
seems to be a big problem for Priest for sure.
And
Chakki, do you have any
for
fun?
Warrior too.
Oh, yeah, and for Warrior too, sorry.
I pretty much agree with Neirea. I mean, the Priest deck, I think once it gets, it's a very new deck. I mean, the Control Priest did a lot better in the regionals. The kind of aggro or mid-range Priest did really poorly for the representation it had. I think, once people get the Priest list right, it'll be better. It'll be a deck. And Warrior is, like Neirea said, only really good when aggro's good.
Somebody asked about the card, so I had to show it.
Oh, sorry, I missed it. Which card?
So the bragging rights card, which is the prize
for winning.
IEM. Yeah.
Nice. Rest in peace, by the way. What happened? IEM announced that they're going to have an event in San Jose, and they're not having Hearthstone there. That makes me so
Dead
sad.
game.
North America still has yet to have a non-Blizzard sponsored event. That's
Come
open
on.
for people.
Yeah, we need MLG to step up. Hello, MLG, if you're watching this.
Definitely.
Please step up.
Apisola, if you're listening. Or Sundance. I don't know. Fuck it. Do it. Make it happen. This is a question asked by Alegosios. He says, do you think Sylvanas, Karin, and Black Knight are good in Ramp Druid or not necessary because they're too slow?
I don't think a 6-drop is too slow in Ramp Druid, but yeah, I think Sylvanas gets better because Control gets better. Karin is okay. Black Knight is meta dependent. But all three have their place in the deck.
All right. Neirea, do you have any other additional comments? Because I think that summarized it pretty well.
At Ram Druid, you might have more slots for legendaries like Kinrarius, Ragnaros, I don't know. So basically, 6-drop is not so important. You need to have more late game stuff, probably. But Sylvanas is definitely the best minion in Control matchup.
All right. This is a question asked by Simplexity. He asks, is Deathlord going to be stronger if Hunter's Mark isn't in the meta to punish it?
No, because Deathlord is mostly the card that is weaker against decks that... well, it depends on the metagame. It's like if you have good minions in your deck, then killing Deathlord is always good. Like, if you play a Ramp Druid and you kill Deathlord, you're like, yeah, sure, I have a good odds to get something really good. And so Deathlord will be stronger in the aggro metagame, but right now we were just saying that mid-range and Control will be shining for now. I mean, everything will be played, but it really depends on what people will play, what kinds of minions. Like, there's even a funny video on YouTube where Noxious, I think, is like playing versus double Deathlord, and he kills them, and then there's like a Fire Elemental in Alakir, and he actually loses the game.
That sounds awful.
It sounds like
But
Noxious,
hilarious.
right? Like,
Yeah.
always getting this weird RNG thing from...
Yeah, he's
from-
the anti-Amaz. I don't understand how he gets so unlucky with some of the RNG stuff that happens. But I mean, he's asking for it with some of the stuff he plays, for sure.
By the way, talking about Noxious, he will be at WCA China, so we will be able to see Noxious playing in a high competitive event again. I'm pretty hyped to like meet the guy face to face. Like, I know him from Skype, and
Oh, you never met him?
yeah, I never met him. It's like I know he was at BlizzCon, but
He's really personable and fun. He's kind of like how he is on stream. He's just really chill. And
Right.
really like loves laughing and very positive guy. So I'm sure you'll like him a lot. All right, let's continue on with a few more questions. We still have some time. What would you replace Leroy in Handlock if the nerf went through? Although it's still possible to face us at turn 10 or trade it early game, is there anything comparable or comparable? Chakki?
Arcane Golem. Maybe you just won't even play it though. Like, I don't know. We'll have to see. Depends on like how the meta shifts. You don't need the combo in it. If the meta gets a lot slower, they might just put in like Sunwalkers or something, just like another threat in their deck. Because the Powers, the Leroy, they were like the cards you sat on all game. And if the meta becomes really taunt heavy, they're not that good anyway.
All right, Neirea?
I would replace with Lord Jaraxxus. Just because it's same mana cost as a combo, and it will get you a win. That's all.
Drax's games are always really epic too. They're so fun. Gnimsh, do you have any comments? Because I know you love playing Handlock.
So Leroy is out, right? And
well, they're asking, assuming if you take Leroy out, maybe you
Okay.
keep it in. But if you take it out, what would you replace it with?
I like Alexstrasza. It's like you change Handlock a bit to have be more about board control, to be able to like win board control by turn 9, and turn 9 you just play Alexstrasza and go face. So just use Alexstrasza as your win condition, and in Handlock you should be able to draw into Alexstrasza because he draws so many cards.
Maybe we will see a Jaraxxus and Alexstrasza in one deck.
Again, it's like the
Yes,
old
again.
times, right?
The old school.
Yeah.
Yep. That's definitely a possibility.
All right. Well, that sounds very annoying to deal with.
But
I hated that deck.
Back to the beginnings of Handlock, some of the players used Leroy by himself just to have a burst damage or Shadow Step or Shadow Flame Water.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it will not be so dead in Handlock.
But that's 9 mana now. I don't know. I don't think Leroy's going to stay.
Magma Rager, Shadow Flame, yeah.
Yeah, Magma Rager. There we go.
Yeah, I guess it's like what is it? 7? It's like Shadow. It's like a +1 spell power Flame Strike. That's what they said for the same mana. There you go. Happy Time Panda has been asking this a little bit in the chat. He's asking at Gnimsh specifically, why do you think Blizzard's mad at 3-card combos dealing 18 to 20 damage? I'm guessing he's implying Leroy. And yet the 14 damage 2-card combos, and I'm assuming this is from Druid, is fine as long as it's behind taunts. Because Blizzard said their nerf was coming because the damage was dealt with no board. Isn't this the same thing?
I think like the Druid combo might be nerfed as well. It's really hard to answer this question without looking really deep into the meta game and how the deck plays. I feel like Leroy was nerfed for Miracle Rogue because Miracle Rogue was too solitaire-like-ish deck where there was no interaction. And with Druid, possibly there is interaction till you get the combo, so you have to deal some points of damage. But it's still not the Blizzard style, I feel. It's what Blizzard is looking at, like in the game. I feel is mostly like minions versus minions interaction, so that people can actually like the game state changes and people win and they lose, and there is interaction basically. And Miracle Rogue was really uninteractive. So I mentioned it at some point on Value Town when we were interviewing, I think, Ben Bro, that this is a different style. That Blizzard hates, like this the Miracle Rogue style. And I feel like Druid combo, if it gets more popular, as Neirea mentioned, that right now it can actually emerge again, it might be another nerf because it's not something that Blizzard wants. But on the other hand, if we just trade minions, if the game ends up to be like Yeti attacks into Yeti and attacks into /Belcher, attacks into /Belcher, and I heal, and that's it, the game might be going in a weird direction. So, but we will have what's up?
Resident Sleeper.
Yeah, Resident Sleeper, right? But then again, we'll have 100 new cards in a future expansion. So maybe then we'll have more depth and more mechanics introduced, and then maybe graveyard stuff. So for now,
Sure,
I guess it's fine. Cool. But in the future, I'm sure like the game will have more ways to like expand and to win the game.
Do you guys think that combo should be nerfed at all? Or changed?
I'm not sure.
Well, yeah, me neither. Like, I don't have any really deep insight into what will, make the metagame the best. But in general, I kind of liked it when Blizzard was, they just weren't going to nerf anything and instead just released new cards. Like, that's how, paper TCGs are. Nothing gets nerfed. You just get new stuff. And that's how the game develops. And, that's exciting because new stuff. And in general, like, nerfs just aren't that great. But
maybe only Savage Roar to 4 mana, and that's all. Because it's kind of like a Bloodlust, but it gives it to attack to the hero, but costs 2 less.
Yeah, it might be just too good as a card, so it might be streamlined. But basically, from my perspective, I like different styles of decks. And I like the metagame where we have aggro decks that are alive, mid-range, control, and combo. Like, personally, I really enjoy the combo. That's why I enjoyed Miracle Rogue a lot. And I was playing the Alex Straza Warrior before on the OTK deck. And it's fun because if you are kind of bored with like minion trading, you can just switch deck and play some combo. If you're bored with the combo because it doesn't work for you or something, you can play something else. So many different styles of decks that tend to different play styles of players. And if everything is just minion trading, some of the players will get bored quicker.
Yeah, go play Arena if you want that.
I think Arena actually will hopefully be more of a focus as time goes on too, because I think they can do so much more. It does attract a lot of the casual player base, and I think it was really fun. Like I think Lord of the Arena shows how much that people can enjoy some of the fun aspects of just drafting and like getting ridiculous decks. And the fact that we had to make convoluted rules, like if you draft 3, then you had to like pick another thing, was also just kind of a headache. But I'm glad people enjoyed the tournament overall. All right, Gnimsh, do you see any other questions you want to answer in the last few minutes? We have time to take a few more.
There was a question about if the upcoming tournament would be decided by hand-to-hand combat, who would win, and why would it be Forsen? I think I agree because Forsen, after just drinking some of the juices and other stuff, he gets immortality mode, and then it's really hard to defeat him.
Meth makes people go crazy, so I'm sure Forsen would definitely do whatever it takes to win. For sure.
Forsen would definitely destroy everyone.
The Brotherhood shall prevail.
Yeah.
Neirea, I got a question for you. They said, what is your thought on cards that include a lot of RNG, like Ragnaros, Brawl, and etc.? Do you feel like they're good for the game, or are they too random?
Especially me, I use Rag only Control Warrior deck, and that's all. I don't like such RNG cards, so I use my Control and my Priest instead of Rag. And I think it just depends on player. If player wants to be so lucky or unlucky very hard in his match, so he is using Ragnaros. But Brawl is it's like only removal for Warrior. It doesn't matter what RNG of this card. It's just too good in Warrior.
Nah, I definitely agree. Chakki, do you have any follow-up comments?
Yeah, I agree. It's one of those cards that's like, if you have the option of using it, you don't want to because it's RNG. But the card is so strong that it's got to be played. It's kind of like Animal Companion. Like, Animal Companion's RNG, and you hate Leok sometimes. Sometimes you hate Misha. And sometimes you even hate Huffer. But you still have to play the card, and you have to play 2 copies because it's so ridiculously like overvalued for its cost. And like Ragnaros is an 8/8 charge that doesn't take damage from attacking when it works. So.
All right, cool. Gnimsh, I would ask you that question, but I feel like I already know the answer to those RNG cards. But go ahead anyways.
Well, I enjoy them. They create a story mostly. So as cards, I totally agree with Chakki that this is like RNG is kind of like a way to balance the cards, so that you don't only base the card design on stats. Like, hey, there is a 4/5 Yeti, which is the balanced card on curve, but we'd like to have something better. But then if you have something better, which is like better than the standard curve, you have to introduce some RNG into it. So I'm fine with the amount of RNG we have now. When we had like too much RNG, Blizzard actually nerfed it with like not Pagel and then Thingmaster. So I think like Blizzard is in a good way to with introducing the RNG cards, and they're pretty cool. I mean, like so many times, Frodan, we casted Ragnaros and we were like on the floor, not believing what just happened. So I'm sure like the card is actually pretty good.
All right, and then there's the last question that we'll take before we wrap up the show. Who is the most sexy between Savitz, Forsen, and Lothar? Gnimsh.
Wait, is this a question for me?
Yes, it's asked by Cookie Noisette.
I will refrain from answering that question, and I feel like we are being accused of role playing here. So maybe
I think I already got your answer then, if that's the case. Chakki, do you have any answers to this question?
I'll just throw the no homo out there first, and my answer will be Savitz.
Oh, I can get behind that too. All right, Neirea, you finish out our question.
I can't answer this question.
Or else you might get prosecuted by the government.
Because will not proud of me of that.
Aww. Okay. Well, don't worry. We all know your answer is all of the above for sure. All right, so I think that wraps up turn 2 for this episode. We want to do some final shout-outs. So Gnimsh, go ahead. The floor is yours.
Well, as always, shout out to... wait, actually, we have a new production guy today. We have Sam, so shout out to Sam instead of Simon, who is doing all the production stuff. I'm not sure who made a new overlay for 4 people, but it looks great, so shout out to the creator of that. Shout out to you, Frodan, for hosting. Shout out to our guests for being here with us. So thank you so much. And shout out to the Cloud9 team and all our sponsors, which are HyperX, Logitech, Air Force Reserve, Alienware, Low Class, Need for Seats, Homejoy, and SideClick. So that's it from my side. And what are your shout outs, Frodan?
Well, I want to give the guests the floor. They're the ones that are being featured. Chakki, last comments, thank you, shout outs.
Shout out to Sam, like you said, for producing it, and Frodan and Gnimsh for hosting and having me on. Shout out to my new team, Team Coast. We have 2 people going to the North American Regional. Hope we can do really well there. And yeah, just look out for me and Twisted at the North American Regional.
That's wonderful too. Yeah, and Coast has been doing great, so hopefully you guys will be able to continue that. Neirea.
Shout out to you guys for especially for inviting me to the great show. Shout outs to my teammates, Cypher, Toire, Nambagai, Aris, and Carlis. They're great guys that helped me a lot with preparing for my games. And that's all probably. Shout out to all guys who helped me.
Shout out to all the viewers, by the way. Thank you for watching, and to all the people who will listen to us on iTunes and other platforms. Thank you for listening. We will be back next week with 2 other guests. We'll be featuring BlizzCon qualified players, and then a lot of stuff happening. So, Frodan, any last words?
Yeah, shout out to all of the organizers who are trying their best to do tournaments. Make sure you guys can try to do your best to support them. They're just continuing to put on production. Even though there's a lot of tournaments right now and it feels somewhat congested, I think we can all agree that that's at least a nice problem to have as opposed to not enough tournaments, which was definitely the case, 6 months ago. And that's why Fight Night was actually as special as it was, because there wasn't many things like it. But the good news is that lots of good stuff is coming. ESL is hosting the North American qualifiers in New York City on October 5th and 6th, so make sure you don't miss your chance to attend for free and get those packs, as well as see Chakki. And a shout out to Tempo Storm, #1 team in Hearthstone. No offense to the rest of you guys on the panel, but I think it's very clear who's the best here. And also thank you to Sam, our new guy that's been here. Make sure you guys hit the follow button on this channel, by the way, and get notifications of when iHeartU site goes live. Sorry that there was no tabletop today, but it'll be back soon. And make sure again to check out all the cool stuff at iHeartU.com, including coaching, guides, news, articles, and more. So from Frodan, Gnimsh, Chakki, and Neirea, thank you so much for tuning in. This has been Turn 2 episode number 36, and we'll see you guys next time.